LPT, be careful who you vent to in work. Just because they listen, it doesn't mean that they are your friend or have your best interests at heart. I always assume I'm being overheard by my boss or my grandma. Work is like junior high, but everyone there is getting paid. If I'm venting, I make sure I would say it to my boss. That takes tremendous self-awareness. I need to learn from you. Not op. But for me, it didn't take self-awareness. It took experience and maturation. I waitressed for several years in my late teens/early 20s. And I ran my mouth like it was a goddamn open refrigerator, complained and talked relentless constantly. And any person I gossiped about found out what I said about them, no matter how covert and discreet I thought I was being. Most of that behavior was because I was young, petty, worked in an environment where that kind of behavior and interactions are practically expected. And most importantly, because I overestimated everyone's loyalty and discretion. The fact that it was a job I couldn't care less about was just the frosting on the cake. Absolutely, I made my fair share of mistakes. Some that in hindsight made me look inferior, especially when it was in the eye of someone who could advance me. Sometimes it's a long road of learning how to be a person. 100%. Lost a job this way. Edit. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Unfortunately, it isn't crazy exciting. But I live in an at-will to work state and was just venting to someone I thought I could trust about some frustrations I had and how things were oddly run in the place. And by the time the day was over, we mutually agreed it wasn't the right fit and I was let go. That's why you complain about something different to everyone. Then you can figure out who the snitch is. You should keep a journal though. As a construction foreman, I use a voice recorder all day. Let my computer try to translate, I save that. Email it to myself daily, but I also write by hand the transcripts of all my audio. We call it a logbook rather than a journal. A logbook saved me and a 10-person crew. There was an incident that wasn't our fault. In my industry, everyone gets fired within earshot or at least drug tested. I hadn't even transcribed the event yet, but the head safety guy just kinda flipped through one of my logbooks, read a page or two, and said my verbal statement was enough. No need for a written one, and my crew's good. No P tests, no one on my crew got fired. However, over 20 people did get fired for the incident. None of them failed a drug test or anything. That's the best practice right there. It's a pain to have to do, but you need to be very detailed to prevent S from sticking to you. Blame runs downhill, and in an industry that has blue ribbon blame panels, it saves aggravation and jobs. Source: former QCM4 company that specialized in large gov projects. Similar. LPT. Never ever save your email or text message something to someone that you wouldn't want them to tell someone else with verifiable proof that you said it. Came here to say this. Always assume every email will be seen by the whole company, the clients, etc. I had a boss curse about a client and accidentally CC the same client. Immediately lost their business. Also, once at another job, I confided in one of my directors in an email and he mocked me in an email to the whole department. I actually liked both of those bosses. These people are not your friends. Friends aren't conditioned on some job or some big account. Do not trust them in confidence if you can help it, especially when there is a paper trail. Same goes for hours, which works for the owners of the company and not for you. If you really need to tell someone something confidential, do it privately and verbally if you can, before writing or signing anything. If there is a problem though, do write notes privately to yourself if you need to defend yourself later. Another point is the fact that you do not own the computer you use at work and are therefore not entitled to personal privacy. Your supervisor and or owner of the company can come to your workstation at any time and ask for access to your computer and check your email and other programs. Don't keep anything on your computer that you wouldn't mind your bosses knowing. Ditto for texting using a company cell phone. Exactly. Don't put anything in text you don't want tied to you. Also, at work, don't negative email about someone because they can easily get looped into the chain any day. Never ever trust people you work with just because you guys are work friends. I made the mistake of telling someone at work I was bipolar. They did things to purposely make me anxious, and then they'd tell the owners I was too anxious to do my job properly, which was completely untrue. I was fast and efficient and never had customers complain. She complained about me to customers, and it was a small town, so she would spin everything I'd say and do. Eventually she used a Facebook post I made saying how happy I was to have met such kind open-hearted people in this new town I loved. She told my bosses she thought it was a suicide note. I got laid off, which did cause a depressive episode. Small town, so they found out. Obviously none of them feel badly about how it was handled. I had to move home because it was a small town and COVID struck. I will probably never trust anyone ever again that I don't consider family. People suck, and if money or status is involved they can be downright evil. I never ever tell anyone of my depression or ad. They will use it against you eventually. I don't care how close we are. One lady I worked with told people she had AD, and people talked behind her back terribly. Even people who I didn't think were judgmental. We had this big meeting and were encouraged to end mental health stigma by sharing. No thanks. I'm good. GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. Here, I'm extremely open about my issues with immediate family and close friends. I will never even hint about it to a coworker or post anything linked to my name about it. It could absolutely be used as a weapon against me. It doesn't matter that I've got mine well managed, and it doesn't affect my work or daily life most of the time. My allergies are more disruptive than my mental health. People could still use it against me. So many people don't understand mental illness. This is why I don't vent to anyone. I just overheat and shut down. Not sure if serious, but if you are, you could always find a friend who is completely removed from the situation that you trust to vent to. Can I vent at work about being unable to find a friend to vent about work too? This sounds like venting at work with extra steps. Just vent about home people to work people, and vent about work people to home people as long as there's no mutual friends. This is also very true in life. Generally, trust takes years to earn and seconds to lose. Trust is earned over years and can be lost in seconds. Malcolm X. OS Malcolm X is a redditor. By any means necessary. A coworker of my late father lost his job this way. Was making small talk with his boss and mentioned how he'd rather be outside than stuck in the shop. Guess the boss was having a bad day or had a previous issue with the guy because he flipped his ass and fired him on the spot. My dad, listening in from the background, was pretty shocked. Lesson 1. Never tell your boss that you no longer want to do your job unless you are in the middle of resigning. Had it happened to a coworker, he thought he was safe because he was one of 2 people who knew how to run a specific CAD program. He also refused to go on an out-of-town trip because he didn't want to / could not afford to have his dog boarded. I think his wife was on a trip. He put his foot down. They showed him the door, and I got sent on the work trip. Lesson 2. We are all replaceable. My first job out of college was in sales for a company almost everyone in America knows. I was struggling and dealing with some health problems. Went to my manager and told her I was thinking of quitting. An hour later I was being walked out the door. Thank God I had grabbed my bag because I didn't get to return to my desk and get my stuff. Lost a great water bottle and I'm still salty. Is that even allowed? That's basically theft. Yep. Recently discovered my manager stalking the staff, then acting all nice to everyone else. Lost trust in her completely. Thought she was nice. Now I know she probably stalks me. Always felt weird being quiet. Now I'm staying that way. Humans are deceptive and cunning. Yes, I lose my trust in my managers when they needlessly stalk people, especially the people they are managing. It really bums me out when it's a manager I respect and like too. Yeah. / Agreed. There are far too many people out there who spew their life story out of boredom. Graveyard is a really boring shift though. If there's literally no meaningful work to be done and management has a stick up there or about phone/books, then talking to your co-workers is really the only method left to keep your sanity throughout the night. Not saying gossip is ever a good or excusable idea, but it's understandable why it happens so often.